So I'm sorry to announce David Silverman will not be joining us this evening. Thank you all very much for coming out. Holy cow. There's a lot of you here tonight. This is pretty exciting. Pretty good looking crowd. So I'd like to first start these off by thanking Atheists of Utah for sponsoring the event. The hard work of the Board of Trustees, especially in the face of so much adversity, never ceases to amaze me. You guys are incredible. Felicia, Sarah, Grant, and Jenny, thank you very much. Why don't you guys stand up? I see Sarah and Felicia here. Without your guys' planning and know-how, events like this wouldn't be possible. I'm delighted to be part of the incredible team of hardworking volunteers and wanted to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you all very much. I really appreciate everything you do. Let's give them another quick round. Books for our event this evening are supplied and sold by the King's English Bookshop, a local independent bookshop, matching books to readers since 1977, so I'd like to thank them also for helping us out with this event tonight. Okay. So you've seen him on Fox News, talking to the likes of Sean Hannity, Bill O'Reilly, and others. You've seen clips of those appearances on other shows like The Colbert Report, where he earned his Twitter handle of Mr. Atheist Pants. You heard him speak in the rain during the mass resignation event for people leaving the Mormon religion here in Utah. Woo! Many of you have listened to his recent interview on the Godless Revolution podcast, hosted by Ryan Duffy, Matt Mitchell, and yours truly. Hi, guys. And many of you heard him this morning on X96's Radio from Hell show with Carrie, Bill, and Gina. That was pretty fun and exciting. But what you may not know is that contrary to what entirely too many people say, Dave is not a dick. He is someone who deeply cares about people. It's what drives his activism. He's a husband, a father, an avid football fan, a dog lover, and he recently lost about 20 pounds, all of which I seem to have found, so when you want him back, just let me know. Anyway, David will speak for about an hour, and then we'll have a short Q&A session before the break to let Dave sign books for you this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage American Atheist President, author of Fighting God, an Atheist Manifesto for a Religious World, one of the hardest working activists in the atheist community, and my friend, Mr. David Silverman.
Hello, everybody. There we go. I said hello, everybody. Hello. That's the way atheists say hello. We're not Unitarians, you know. Or Mormons. Triple A, yeah. My name is David Silverman, folks. I want to thank you all for coming. I just want to make sure that all the microphones work. Can you all hear me? Yes, all right. I am the author of Fighting God, the president of American Atheists, but the author of Fighting God, which is why I'm here tonight. Before I get into the presentation, I'll tell you a little story about this. I did the first Reason Rally in 2012. We created and ran the first Reason Rally in 2012, and it was the largest atheist event in world history. We had 30,000 atheists in the Mall of Washington, D.C., and it was awesome. And after that, a publisher, a small press publisher, came to me and asked me to write a book. And so I did. It was called I, Atheist, and it was half David Silverman and half Firebrand Atheist. And most of you never heard of that book because it didn't get published. Right before it was published, this is after editing, the book contract fell through, and I had myself a book and no publisher. So I obtained, through various resources, the email address of Barack Obama's agent. And I sent her a blind email, just out of the blue. She knew who I was and signed me right away. Then she sent out her top line, an initial treatment of the book, to her top line of editors, major editors throughout the country. The editor at Macmillan St. Martin knew who I was and signed me right away. So I went from a small press publisher to one of the largest publishers in the world in a few weeks. And the publisher came to me and he said, here's a contract. We're changing the cover, we're changing the title, and we're taking everything about you out of the book. So I lost half the book. And he said, you have 6 months to fill in the rest, ready, go. And that's how Fighting God was born. Now, I tell you the story about the editor and the agent not to tell you how famous I am, which, by the way, I'm very famous. I want to make the point that my agent didn't take me on because she thought she knew who I was. The editor did not take me on because he knew who I was. They both took me on because of the same reason. They thought they could make money off of me. This is how it works. They thought they could make money off of me, and please put those in. And the question is, why? The reason they thought they could make money off of me is because atheists are coming out of the woodwork. The reason they thought they could make money off me is because atheism is moving into the realm of the regular. The reason they thought they could make money off of me is because of Firebrand atheism. This is the point of Fighting God. That Firebrand atheism is not only okay, it's great. It's not only great, it's great on a micro level, it's great on a macro level, and it is more ethical. It is the nicer thing to do. It's nicer than being nice. This is the point of Firebrand atheism. This is the point of Fighting God. Thank you, Dan. And this is still not working. Hold on. We have to pray. All right, everybody, let us pray. This is still not working, Dan. Did you put them in right? We have to keep praying.
I thought I did.
Keep praying. No. This is not in right. Try it again, please. Okay. So God doesn't exist yet. We're going to keep praying until he does. Keep trying, Dan. All right. So I'm going to talk to you about what Firebrand atheism is today. I know, I did it on my finger. I got it over here. Like magic. So before, a lot of people don't know what Firebrand atheism is. A lot of people think it's just being a dick, like Dan said. And it's not. So first we're going to define what Firebrand atheism is, starting with what Firebrand atheism is not. And then I'm going to give good old-fashioned examples of Firebrand atheism. Is that it?
They're in the right way in their new batteries, man.
Oh, great. Okay, I'm staying in here. Nope. Dude.
Try it different.
No, it's working. That's not a port. One more time. Nope, that's not working. Okay, that's all right. I got to cut it. All right. I'm going to talk about how it works via billboards and mass and in person. What exactly is Firebrand atheism and how does it work and how do I do it? And then I'm going to give results. I love results because results in my book are based on a thing called data. Data, the right kind of data, quantitative data from multiple independent sources, not that gooey stuff. Real hard numbers that I've used to make my points in Fighting God. And I'm going to show you some of that data today. And then I'm going to leave you with how Firebrand atheism can work for you in your daily life. Before we get into that, though, let's talk about what Firebrand atheism is by starting with what Firebrand atheism is not. Firebrand atheism is not insulting people by calling them idiots, brain damaged, or other derogatory names. This is the mark of a weak argument, but ours is the strongest argument by far, and we need to own that and act like it. Now, this is the first statement of this presentation, and it is an understatement. To say that the atheism argument is strongest by far is an understatement. The atheism argument is the only argument that has any strength to it at all. Every single other argument, every single argument for every theism everywhere in history is a zero argument. It's not only weak, it's nothing. And I'm going to be talking about that. But the point is that when you have a strong argument, you don't insult, you don't shout, you don't just berate, you show, you prove. If you have a weak argument, like every single religion out there, you shout, you brainwash. You are a Mormon, you are a Christian, you are a Jew, whatever. You make sure that they memorize it, they regurgitate it, they learn the songs, they learn the hymns, they learn the prayers, they're brainwashed into believing something that we know is not true as a society. Thank you. My prayers have been answered. All right.
Praise Jesus.
Praise Jesus. Is this a laser? It is a laser. Wonderful. Thank you so much. It's not getting in people's faces and screaming and browbeating them in an attempt to deconvert. Nah. That's how religion does it. That's how weak arguments do it. We don't need to do that. We can use the good stuff, the data, the facts, the knowledge that we have as a society. We can use all that, and that's what makes it stick. And it is also not defending or promoting atheism with dogma or law. This is an important point. When I first gave this presentation in China in July, they were having a very interesting problem up there. China had required atheism for a very long time, but it was a dogmatic atheism. It was not a learned atheism. People weren't atheists because they thought critically about religion. People were atheists because it was memorized, it was regurgitated, it was taught. It was dogmatic. And when you have a dogmatic atheism, you are vulnerable, just like when you have a dogmatic religion. You're vulnerable. When you have facts and critical thinking, you are invulnerable, nearly. But in China, what happened was the dogmatic atheism was released by the government, and Christianity and Islam began to spread. And that's what's happening in China right now. There's a big spread of Christianity and Islam inside China, and the atheistic organizations there are panicking, and that's why I started this there. So when we're talking about Firebrand atheism, we're not talking about insulting, we're not talking about getting in people's faces, we're not talking about dogma, we're not talking about law, we're not talking about memorization and regurgitation, we're talking about the strong stuff, the facts. And that brings us to the first concept of Firebrand atheism. The number one piece of Firebrand atheism, tell the truth. Tell the truth, with an emphasis on the tell. Religion is a lie, all of it. This is the truth. Gods are fiction, all of them. This is the truth. And respect is earned. You don't get respect just because you have an idea. This is the truth. Now, the thing about telling the truth is that the emphasis has to be on the tell. It cannot be on the silent. You cannot use Firebrand atheism and say, all right, I'm going to tell the truth when they corner me. That's not it. If somebody says, well, we're all Mormons here, and you don't say, no, I'm an atheist, you are saying, yes, we're all Mormons here. You are lying. You are giving a directly wrong answer to the statement. You are reinforcing the lie that we're all the same. And in doing so, you are not performing any sort of Firebrand atheism. You are actually helping religion. So the first law of Firebrand atheism is tell the truth as often as possible, and don't be silent, because silence implies acquiescence, silence implies agreement. And in many, many cases, silence is lying. Point 2. Don't feign respect for the unrespectable. See point 1. What is feigning respect for the unrespectable? If you don't respect something and you feign respect for it, you're lying. You're lying. If you don't respect the Mormon religion, the Christian religion, the Jewish religion, and you say you do, you're lying. Don't lie. Tell the truth. I don't respect religion. I respect almost every human being on the planet, and I don't respect any religion at all. That's the truth. It's probably the truth for all of you. Tell the truth. Don't feign respect for the unrespectable. Point 3. Don't accept inequality or privilege, even if it is the norm. See point 2. Because inequality and privilege, think about it. In God we trust. One nation under God. God bless America. These are just examples of the inequality that we as atheists face in America today. And as Salt Lake City natives or Salt Lake City residents, you probably feel more unequal here than other people do in other cities. This is not acceptable. This is not okay. If you say that it's okay, you're feigning respect for the unrespectable. If you say, oh, I respect the religion that's here, you're lying. You're lying. Don't lie. Tell the truth. Point 4. If someone claims to be offended by the truth, it's because they're used to the privilege and inequality. Don't let "I'm offended by your words" silence you. Clarify that it's the belief, not the people with which you take issue. Now, when you're talking, when somebody says to you, "I'm offended by the truth," what exactly are they doing? They're reciting to you what religion has told them to say in the face of atheism. They're telling you what religion has programmed them to say. I'm offended by that word. I'm offended by your story. I'm offended by your statement. I'm offended by your opinion. What is that meant to do? It's meant to put you on the defensive and shut you down. It's a tool used by religion to protect itself from people like you who tell the truth. So clarify yourself. I understand. People, like I said, are imbued at birth. You're a Christian, you're a Muslim, you're a Jew. They take it in. It's a part of almost as thick as their genetic lineage. And so they take it personally when you insult their religion. That's too bad. That can't stop you from telling the truth. Tell them, you are many things. A man, a woman, a brother, a sister, a husband, a daughter. And one of those things is religious, and that part of you is wrong. The rest of you is a very respectable person, and I respect you. But your beliefs, I don't respect them. They are not worthy of respect. That's telling the truth. If they get offended, that's too bad, because that's the programming that religion has put into them. It's not your fault, and it should never stop you from telling the truth. Point 5 brings up my friend. Now, yes, groan. By the way, this whole thing is being recorded up there, and for the cameras, I want to make it clear that I do represent this as the Prophet Muhammad of Islam. Okay. Point 5 is if someone tries to limit your freedom using religion, do points 1 to 4 only louder. So why do we draw Muhammad? Do we draw Muhammad just to piss off Muslim people? No. If we were drawing Muhammad just to piss off Muslim people, we would have been drawing Muhammad all this time. But here, if you just take a little look at the past and a little look in the history, and this presentation is filled with a whole bunch of stuff that you can look up on your own, and I hope you do. If you Google those protests, when the Danish cartoons came out, those protests, those riots, you'll see a very common theme in all the signs that are being held up by the protesters. Do not draw Muhammad. And the entire world said, we will not cave to terrorism. And then the entire world caved to terrorism. And suddenly drawing Muhammad was a bad thing to do. Drawing Muhammad was provocative. If you drew Muhammad, you were being bad. You were making problems. You were going to cause trouble. If you drew Muhammad, you were the troublemaker. That's crap. Ladies and gentlemen, there are hundreds of thousands of religious laws in this world today. Hundreds of thousands, and they all have one thing in common. They have no authority over you whatsoever. None. When they tell you that you have to obey their silly religious laws, no matter what it is, the answer must be no. And why? Well, if you Google again, and you look at the Charlie Hebdo protests after the Charlie Hebdo massacre, you will see a recurring theme. Do not insult Islam. The things move, ladies and gentlemen. Once you lose a right, once you give up a right, you are not done giving up rights. Once you yield to terrorism, you have simply made the first step to losing more rights. First time, you cannot draw Muhammad. The next time, you cannot insult Islam. And the next day, I'm sorry, ma'am, you're showing your hair. That offends me. We are not here to obey their silly religious laws. They can obey their silly religious laws if they want, but we don't have to. My friend Penn Jillette once told me a story about a man who walks up to another man, and the second man is wearing a Mason ring. And the first man says, "Oh, you must be a Mason." The second guy says, No, I just like the ring." The first guy says, "Well, it's against Masonic law for you to wear the ring unless you're a Mason." The second guy says, "Well, it's a good thing I'm not a Mason then." When they tell you that you have to obey any of their religious laws, remember, they have no authority over you. None. Zero. And when they tell you that you have to obey their laws, they are the ones provoking you. They are the ones taking away your rights. You have the right to draw Muhammad. You have the right to draw anything you want. Nobody can take it away unless, of course, we give it away voluntarily. Now, that's the truth. Let's talk about another truth. And as we walk forward, I want to talk about a very important number. There's a lot of numbers in this presentation, but this next slide talks about a very important number that I hope you will all remember. 0. We atheists tend to shy away from absolutes. We don't like absolutes, and we should. I love absolute numbers. There's not probably no God. There's no God. Now, I want to talk to you about a few ways that we use the number 0 as atheists, or at least that I use number 0. The sum total of number of times an atheistic argument has been beaten by a theistic argument is 0. God did it has never been proven right. Never. Note those absolutes. Never. Across all religions in world history, God did it has never, ever been proven right even once. Prove me wrong once, and I will quit my job. I'm not afraid, because it's never, ever happened in world history. This presentation is being recorded. This statement is in my book. If anybody, anywhere can show me anytime that any God did anything, I'll quit, because I'll be wrong. But it's never happened. It's all hype. Point 2, the number of psychics, demons, ghosts, ghouls, or spirits that have been proven real in the history of the world is 0. Ghost Hunters has been on for 9 seasons. And they have this, they go to all the most haunted houses, and they have this really narrow camera angle, and they move it around like this. And they go, "What's that? It must be a ghost." And they have all their scientific equipment, and there's the cameras, ladies and gentlemen, because if any ghost hunter story, any ghost hunter across any country, anywhere, ever finds any evidence for any existence of any ghost, I will quit my job. It's not real, folks. There's no such things as ghosts. These folks dumb down our society from personal gain, and we feel it because we see it. We see people of note looking at psychics. They're wrong. Prove me wrong once. I'll quit my job. There's no such thing as psychic powers. There's no such thing as ghosts, and there's no such things as gods. Point 3, the number of miracles that have actually been proven to have happened in the history of the world across all religions is 0. Prove me wrong once, I'll quit my job. The Mother Teresa was just canonized. You can't get canonized Without what? 2 proven miracles. So the Catholic Church, there's the camera, folks. The Catholic Church can take the president of American Atheists down tomorrow because they've proven 2 miracles just by Mother Teresa. I'm waiting, but I'm not scared because they're lying. They're lying, folks. They're not telling the truth, and we aren't telling the truth either. We must start doing that. Point 4, the amount of evidence that separates the myths of yesteryear, like Zeus, from today's respected religions is 0. Because the number of evidence for all of them is 0. The number of evidence for all the gods ever conceived and ever prayed to combined is 0. In other words, the sum total, ladies and gentlemen, of scientifically valid proof for anything supernatural ever in world history is 0. Prove me wrong once, I'll quit my job. I'm not afraid because it's never happened in world history. It's all a lie, it's all a scam, it's all a con. And that makes it all malevolent. That makes it all a target for people who want to do good by killing something evil. Now, let's talk a little bit about labels. This is one of my favorite slides too. I think they're all my favorite slides, actually. Euphemisms hurt the cause. Yes, they do. Ladies and gentlemen, an atheist is defined as follows: a person who lacks a belief in any deity. A person who lacks a belief in any deity. It does not mean that you are absolutely, positively, 100% sure that there's nothing. That's not what it is. It's an absence of a belief. If you don't have a belief in a deity, you're an atheist. If you don't have a belief in a deity, but you know the universe is unknowable, you're an atheist. If you don't have a belief in a deity, but you love the trappings of religion, you're an atheist. If you don't have a belief in a deity, but you wish there was a God, you're an atheist. If you don't have a belief in a God, and you absolutely positively hate the word atheist, tough shit, you're still an atheist. There is nothing shameful in the word. Independent is not a negative word. Dependent is the negative word. Theism is the negative word. Atheism is the positive word. There is absolutely nothing wrong with the word, and it is the correct word. It is the word that is understood, and it is also the word that answers the question. Now, it answers the question of religion, but I treat people different. I treat people nicely does not answer, what is your religion? Are there any vegetarians in the room? Here's a vegetarian right here. What's your name, sir? Ricardo is a vegetarian. Now, if I went up to Ricardo the vegetarian and I asked, Ricardo, what kind of meat do you eat? And he answered, I like salad. Has he answered the question? No. I had a long discussion with an atheist who calls himself a humanist some time ago, and he got all huffy and puffy and said, I don't like to tell people what I'm not. I like to tell people what I am. So he calls himself a humanist, which is, of course, not a religion, it's a philosophy, and it talks about treating people nicely. When somebody asks you what your religion is, and you answer with, I treat people nicely, are you answering the question? Or are you saying, I like salad? If I ask Ricardo what kind of meat he eats, he will say, I don't eat meat. I'm a vegetarian. That's answering the question. And when you ask the question of what your religious beliefs, you all know what they mean. They mean, do you believe in God? And the answer is not, I believe in treating people nicely. That's a sidestep. That's a coward's answer. Sorry, it is. And I'll get to more of that in a second. But the way you answer it is by telling the truth, answering the question. I don't have a religion. I don't believe in God. I'm an atheist. That answers the question. Now, let's talk a little bit more about numbers. I love numbers. Did I mention that? I love the best kind of numbers, statistically valid, quantifiable numbers from multiple independent sources. I love that stuff, okay? Let's look at some numbers. Now, Atheist delivers the correct information more effectively. Look at this number right here. Ladies and gentlemen, 87% of Americans know what an atheist is, by and large. They know what an atheist is, by and large. Approximately half of the people in America know what an agnostic is. Which means if you call yourself an agnostic, you got a 50-50 chance of being misunderstood. If you got a 50-50 chance of being misunderstood, what are you going to be misunderstood as? The norm. You're going to be misunderstood as the norm. You're going to be considered theistic. 50% of the population doesn't know what agnostic is. Agnostic, by the way, is a really stupid term that nobody should ever use because it's completely bullshit meaningless. I mean, really. No, let me look at this. I don't know everything in the universe. I openly admit that. Is this probably a water bottle? Is this probably a water bottle? Do we have the word definite in our vocabulary? Do we have the word sure? Do we have the word absolute? Do we have those words in our vocabulary? Yes, we do. We don't know everything in the universe for anything, but we can be certain of things. We can be sure of things, unless the invisible magic man in the sky gets a probably not. Unless the invisible magic man in the sky gets I don't know. No. You're putting religion on a pedestal. You're giving it a break that it doesn't deserve. I want you to ask yourself why. There's no reason to do that. There's no reason to give any sort of a buy to religion. Religion is a lie, and we know it just as firmly. We know there is no God just as firmly as we know there is no Santa Claus and no unicorns. And there definitely is no Santa Claus, there definitely is no unicorns, and there definitely is no God. But I digress. Secular, so popular in the atheist community, understood a whopping 30% of the time. A whopping 30% of the time, which is really, really bad until you look at the king of the hills, atheist and freethinker. Ladies and gentlemen, nobody knows what those goddamn words mean. 90% of the country don't know what a humanist is. 90% of the country don't know what a freethinker is. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if somebody asks you a question and you answer your question with a term that has a 90% chance of being misunderstood, are you telling the truth? No. You're using literally meaningless words. Literally nothing words. You're hiding. You're answering with nothing. You are not doing anything. Now, let me ask you a question before I change this slide. Look at this slide here. And look at this question. If you were religion, what term would you want the atheists to use? Would you want the atheists to use the term that's understood almost 90% of the time? Or the one that's misunderstood and presumed, therefore, to be religious 90% of the time? Ladies and gentlemen, when you use these other terms, you're not helping anyone except religion. You're not helping the listener. You're not helping yourself. You're not helping this country. You're helping religion. When you say, oh, I'm not an atheist, I'm a blah, 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 blah. You're not doing anybody any favors. You're not making any headway. You're not making any progress. You're not doing any activism. You are literally doing nothing because you are literally saying nothing 90% of the time. How? Having said that, let's look at some atheist billboards. Atheist billboards are my friends because, well, I love them. I love them a lot. Now, before I get into them, there's a concept that I'd like to describe called the Overton window. The Overton window is a business term that maps the number of things that you can say that are given in it that are considered politically acceptable in society. Okay, so that's a window of terms, a window of words that is acceptable to talk about. It's not shocking, okay? It's common. And it shifts back and forth as you use the words, as words come in and out of meaning. And this is a very broad concept. A good example of this is Mitt Romney, right? First time he ran for president, he was the Mormon president. Ooh, he was the way outlier. He dropped out of the race early because he was just a Mormon. He was crazy. That's outside the norm. But the next time he ran, he was the front runner. That is the Overton window shifting. And Mormon, being a Mormon president, entered into that window. That's the realm of the regular. That's the Overton window. And that is the concept that I use when I use atheist billboards. Now, I took over American Atheists in September 2010, and I put up this billboard in December. You know it's a myth. This season, celebrate reason. This was outside the Overton window. This was the first time anybody actually called religion a myth in a great big billboard right outside the Lincoln Tunnel. This billboard was on the air on the national news of 9 different countries. It was that shocking. Everybody was talking about it. It went into the memetics. It went into cartoons in the newspaper, started making fun of our billboard. The Catholic League put up a great counter billboard. I love counter billboards too. In fact, I don't know if you can see it, but CNN said this guy looks exactly like me. Memes came out. Saturday Night Live actually featured the billboard on Saturday Night Live on Weekend Update. It was amazing. And that's what happens when you do something outside the Overton window. And when you do that, you pull the window with you. That's how you shift the window by force. You go outside and you pull it. Just like Mitt Romney did with his first election campaign, he pulled it as well. So what you have to do with atheist billboards is you have to keep pulling. You have to keep pulling. So we put up that billboard, and then we had to put up another billboard. Here's this one. You know it's a myth, and you have a choice. In Arabic, in a Muslim neighborhood in New Jersey. Elizabeth, New Jersey, the second most popular Muslim neighborhood in the country. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, now's a good time for me to tell you that 100% of the death threats that I have received so far are from Christians. 100%. No death threats from Muslim people. But the press went wild. The press went wild, shifting that Overton window. And what did we do? Now we're allowed to call Islam a myth. Now we're allowed to poke through that veil and poke at Islam too. We had to be able to do that because we weren't able to do it before. Then the next one was, you know they're all scams. This is the first time we actually called religion malevolent in nature. Malevolent in nature, not just a myth. It's wrong. It's bad. It's evil. And that's true. Telling the truth. This is where I got on Bill O'Reilly and I made that meme face, and everybody still seems to love that, and I kind of do too. You know there is no God. We know you're right. We put 5 of these around the Christian city of Des Moines, Iowa. What myths do you see? We compared Jesus, Neptune, Santa Claus, and the devil on one big billboard. Everybody, and everybody keeps pulling, and you can see us pulling this Overton window, pushing the envelope every single time, telling the truth, going outside the Overton window and pulling it. And now let's look back at that first one. What happens if I put, you know it's a myth, up in front of the Lincoln Tunnel again tomorrow? Nothing. Nothing. That's why I won't do it. It won't get any press. Nobody will care. Nobody will give it a second shot. Because American Atheists has successfully moved that window. And criticizing religion is now part of the norm. That's how we bring atheism into the realm of the regular on a large scale. Now let's look at it in person. The Firebrand atheist in person. People need to know that open and even harsh criticism of religion is okay, and that it is indeed good and necessary. I'll wager that almost everyone here agrees with that statement. People need to know that open and even harsh criticism of religion is okay, and it is indeed good and necessary. If that's a true statement, then think about this. Religion doesn't criticize itself, and religions don't normally criticize each other. You don't see a Jew saying, hey, your God is wrong to a Christian. You don't see that happening. You don't see those debates. You see atheist versus theist debates. You don't see Christian versus Jew versus Muslim debates. If we don't criticize religion, nobody will. Nobody will. And if it's a good thing to do, and it's only us who does it, then it's incumbent on us to do it. It's our responsibility. If we don't criticize religion, if we don't deliver the message that criticism of religion is a good thing, Nobody will deliver that message. It therefore is our jobs, our duties as Americans and as atheists to criticize religion and make sure that that gets done. And it's not just the atheists that are doing it, it's only the firebrands that are doing it. It's up to us to do it. It's up to the firebrands, because the nice guy atheists won't do it. Point two, even if they find it distasteful, they need and deserve to hear it. They need and deserve to hear it. Isn't that an interesting word there? They deserve to hear it. You know, I have a lot of friends, and some people come up to me and they say, I know, I've got this friend, and he's a doctor or a lawyer, and he's really smart, but he believes in a man in the sky. Why is he so stupid? Ladies and gentlemen, religious people are not stupid. They're not stupid. My mother was a religious person. My grandmother was a religious person. They weren't stupid people. They are victims of a brainwashing that they've received at some point in their lives, usually from childhood. They are victims of the lie. They are victims of the con, the scam that is religion. They are not evil. They are not stupid. They are victims. And there, but for dumb luck, go we. We must understand that. And we must internalize that. Religious people are not stupid. Religious people are not brain damaged. Religious people are injured. They're hurt. And they need and deserve our help. Now, having said that, I'll tell you a story about my mom. My mom in her later years was very poor. She didn't have a lot of money. And I went to her house maybe a year or so before she died, and I found a receipt for a psychic on her table. A receipt for a psychic on her table. She had paid money to a psychic. And I got mad, but then I calmed down, and I sat my mother down, and I calmly and purposely informed her that she was the victim of a scam, that she was a victim of a con, that this person was lying to her for money. I told her, if you want somebody to lie to you, I'll do it for free. But I convinced my mother right then and there never to go to a psychic again. Did I do the right thing? Of course I did the right thing. I'm a good guy. I'm looking at my mom. She's being conned. She's being scammed. It doesn't matter if it was a psychic or a tarot card reader or a homeopath. I'm helping my mom free herself from a con. I'm doing good. Why do we treat religion differently? Why is it good for me to go to my mother, who's a victim of a con, a little con, and say, get out of that con, and help her out? But when we're talking about her closely held religious beliefs, that's a bad thing to do. Religion is a bigger con, it's a bigger scam. It has the exact same amount of evidence, 0. But somehow, it's bad for us to criticize religion. This is a symptom of where religion sits in our society. Religion has placed itself on a pedestal. And we, as atheists, are victims of that too. We revolt against that. We think closely held religious beliefs are somehow relevant. It's not. Ladies and gentlemen, all the religious people in the world have something in common. They all agree with their God 100%. Did you ever notice that? Nobody says, well, God thinks this, but I disagree. Everybody has a God that agrees with them completely, which means everybody invents their own God, which means every religion, every religious belief is individual. It's made up. It's cafeteria. Your closely held religious beliefs are nothing more than your personal opinions that you're hiding behind religion so you don't have to criticize them. If you have a closely held religious belief that you have to drive 90 in a 50 zone, you still have to obey the law. If you have a closely held religious belief that you can break any law at all, you can't do it. You have to obey the law. If you have a closely held religious belief, it is exactly equal exactly equal to the belief you have that tarot card readers are real, that psychics are real, that homeopathy works. It's exactly the same. It is no more relevant. It is no more sacred. It is no more needing or deserving of protection of any kind. Point 3. Bigotry comes from ignorance. Forcing the conversation allows enlightenment and de-demonizes atheism and atheists. Oh, Ricardo, you thought you were done. My friend Ricardo here hates atheists. Did you all know that? He hates atheists. He's an atheophobe. Now, if I go up to Ricardo and I say, "Hi, Ricardo, I'm an atheist," because he's such a terrible atheophobe, Ricardo will come back to me and say, "I hate atheists, blah!" All right. First things first, I can handle that, right? That's not a big deal. If Ricardo yells at me for being an atheist, blah, I'm all right. I can handle that. I can smile. I can say, "No, you don't have to hate atheists. I'm a nice guy." And then Ricardo will say, "Oh, maybe atheists aren't so bad." His Overton window will be shifted because I'm putting a face to the word atheist. I'm moving him by calling myself an atheist. And then the next person that Ricardo meets, the next atheist that Ricardo meets, will be less shock value. There'll be less shock there. Just like the "You Know It's a Myth" billboard, that next atheist that Ricardo meets will get less of a face full of anger. Now, let's go back to that euphemism chart. Don't worry, Ricardo. I'm a secular, rationalistic, non-theistic skeptic. And Ricardo says, "Great, at least you're not an atheist," because he's one of the 90% of people that has no idea what I'm talking about. And he says, "Great, at least you're not an atheist." And he walks away, and then that next atheist comes up to him. And he says, "I'm an atheist." And Ricardo says, "I hate atheists, blah!" And that next atheist gets the face full of anger. That next atheist gets the unhappy experience. If you hide your atheism, you are doing no good. If you call yourself an atheist, you are actively helping people. You are actively moving the Overton window on an individual level. You are helping people. You're helping Ricardo to learn. You're helping the next atheist that he meets to have a more pleasant time, and you'll never know who that person is. You'll never know the effect. You're doing good for somebody you don't know, and maybe you're taking a little heat, which you can handle. But you're doing it better for him, and you're doing it better for the next guy. That makes calling yourself an atheist activism. And that makes calling yourself an atheist humanism. In fact, that makes calling yourself an atheist more humanistic than calling yourself a humanist. Everybody see that? So you de-demonize the word by calling yourself an atheist, and you know, some people push back on this point. They say, "Dave, I don't like it when you tell me what to call myself." Well, tough shit, folks. We're fighting a war here. And in fighting God, like I told you, in fighting God, I crunch a lot of numbers. And there's a number that I tell you that I came up with in fighting God that says that this country, right now, if we take an aggressive approach, and we look at all the polls in a certain way, I can defend the number 27%. I can defend that this country is 27% atheist right now. But if you look at the polls say we're 2.5%, which means 90% of this country's atheists don't call themselves atheists. 90%. Christians all call themselves Christians. They can be Methodist or Presbyterian or whatever. They all call themselves Christians. They unite despite differences. Atheists divide over nothing. Right? Now, I'm just going to give one quick example here, okay? George W. Bush talked to a guy who believed in a God who said that God, his God, said stem cell research is bad. And so George W. Bush said, "Oh, okay, I'm going to do that," and he halted stem cell research for 8 years. Every single person in this room has been affected by that. I've been affected by that, you've been affected by that, my kid, and every single person, indeed, on this planet has been affected by that decision. He took the words of religion and discounted the non-religious voice because for a few reasons, including the fact that atheists were 2.5% of the population. If the atheists were 27% of the population, how would he have reacted? If the atheists were 27% of the population today, what would the Republican Party look like? What would Salt Lake City look like? Ladies and gentlemen, how you identify yourself affects me. It is my business. It's not about your favorite food or your favorite color. When you hide your atheism, you make religion look bigger and atheism look smaller. You actually help religion. You do no favors for anybody. You don't get Ricardo's, I don't like atheists. That's the big payoff. The negative is you hoist our power, our massive power, and you just funnel it to religion. You say, here, I'm a non-theistic, rationalistic humanist. Not an atheist, though. You give your power away, and you hurt me. You hurt everybody in this room. When atheists hide from their atheism, you hurt the entire planet. And yes, you can do that. You have the right. And I have the right to call you on your shit. And that's exactly what I'm doing. Okay, I'm in Salt Lake City. I'm from New Jersey. I swear a little bit. You know why people from New Jersey swear so much? Because fuck you. Point 4. Atheists honoring religion legitimizes it in the eyes of the theist, but religion deserves no honor, and the theists deserve honesty without hostility. Again, theists deserving honesty. I have a friend, his name is Robert, he's a Muslim. And we were at a party a few years ago now, and he came up to me, he was a little lit. We have this thing in New Jersey called alcohol. You apparently don't have it here in Utah. I tried. He came up to me and he said, you know, Dave, I want you to know that I respect your religious position. And I said, thank you. And he said, yeah, you know, you make your points and you stand your ground and you're pretty persuasive, and I want you to know that I respect your atheism. And I said, thank you again. And he said, now that I've respected your position, you should respect Islam too. And I said, no. I said, you respect my position because my position is respectable. Your position includes an invisible man in the sky and a flying horse. It's not a respectable position. And he got mad. And he turned around and he walked away. Did I do the right thing? You bet I did. Now, I didn't do the easy thing. I didn't do the fun thing. I didn't do the happy thing. I could have said, oh yeah, I respect your religion, you respect my religion. We could have had a nice bro hug, and we could have had another beer, and everything would have been happy. And then, my friend Robert would have ended the day knowing one thing for sure. The president of American Atheists respects his religion. And the crap that's in his head, that religion in his head would have been fortified. It would have been cemented by me. Ladies and gentlemen, I would never do that to a friend. That's not a nice thing to do. That's not a good thing to do. That's a mean thing to do. That's an evil thing to do. It's a selfish thing to do. It's a horrible thing to do to a friend or anybody. He left the room a little bit pissed off. Too bad. He got the truth from me, that his position is not respectable and mine is. That's chipping away at the pedestal on which religion sits in his head. That's doing good. That's helping a friend free himself from the confinements of religion. That is helping people. Yes, it wasn't the most fun thing to do. Yes, it was at a party. Yes, he lived. We're still friends. And he knows that I do not respect his religious beliefs. I hope someday he dumps that shit. But in the meantime, at least he knows that this person over here does not respect that belief. I did not lie to my friend. I did the right thing. I did the humanistic thing. I did a good deed by telling the truth. Now, Firebrand atheism in person is fun. Firebrand atheism on billboards is fun. But then there's Firebrand atheism en masse, and I like that the most. The picture doesn't look too good here. Okay, I'm going to describe this picture because this is one of my favorite pictures. It's one of my favorite slides. This is, you're seeing an ongoing theme here. This is CPAC. CPAC, ladies and gentlemen, the Conservative Political Action Conference, where all the Jesus Republicans go to have Jesus friends in Jesus times, and everybody acknowledges that Jesus wrote the Constitution and Moses was a founding father. At least that's what you're supposed to think. That's what you would think if you watched the debates. That's what you would think if you watched the talking heads. And we went in there, I went in there, with a purpose. To spread the word that conservatism isn't just for Christians, but atheist fiscal conservatives by the millions are being pushed away by theocrats who are trying to equate conservative politics with Christianity, to equate conservatism with Christianity. Now, look at this picture. This, I don't know if you can see this wall right here. This is the front end of a huge auditorium, 10,000 person auditorium. It goes all the way back to those windows, and the doors are right on the outside. And right here is a crowd of people, and they're all coming this way down this narrow hallway. This is 10,000 people leaving this huge auditorium, having listened to a speech from Sarah Palin. And they're coming down toward me, and all 10,000 people are funneling through this narrow hallway. And I'm in the middle of this narrow hallway, standing there with Firebrand atheism on my shirt, Firebrand atheist buttons, all these pamphlets, and my heart is going pop, 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 pop. And I'm expecting the worst, right? I'm expecting what you're all expecting. I'm expecting to be surrounded by Christians, surrounded by hostility, prayer circles, all that shit, and I'm just waiting for it, right? The first time that I'd gone there, this was the time, we had gone there to have a table at CPAC, but they had taken the table away because we were atheists. They wouldn't let us have a table. And so I was standing there in the middle of the hallway, and something amazing happened. Almost. Atheists, folks. Atheists. Atheists at CPAC. Not by the tens, not by the dozens, by the score, by the hundreds. Walked by, turned around, came back, took my flyer, and thanked me profusely for coming. By the hundreds. Also, Christians. Lots of Christians came by, turned around, took a flyer, thanked me for coming, and told me that they supported our presence at CPAC. We didn't expect any of that. We didn't expect this at all. We didn't expect to find atheists. Maybe we expected to find a few. But we didn't expect to find the volume that we found at CPAC. The next year, we went back to CPAC, and because of this activity, they let us in. They let us have a table. In fact, they let us speak from the stage at CPAC as atheists, moving that Overton window inside the conservative movement. They let us speak. They let us talk. They let us table. And here are the results. Multiple news stories about atheists who are conservative. Young conservative and atheist attest for the GOP from the Christian Science Monitor. Should an atheist ever be a Republican from Chicago Now? Not all conservative Republicans are Christian from the World Religion News. But here's the kicker, because when we went to that second table, and we had a table, we went there with 2 one-gallon bags filled with buttons, conservative atheist buttons. Big, fat letters, conservative atheist. We were giving them away on the condition that you wear it. You can have as many as you like as long as you wear them all. And we gave them all away. All away. 2-gallon bags of conservative atheist buttons. 2-gallon bags worth of buttons walking around CPAC. Tony Perkins reacted. the best possible way. He said, there are those who may choose to be non-religious, and that's fine, and the conservative movement is broad enough for them. Now, let me be clear. I am not all giddy that Tony Perkins likes us. I am, however, thrilled that he felt he needed to say that. He choked on those words. He didn't want to say that. He needed to. He needed to because we forced him to. We forced him to deal with the fact that there were conservative atheists by the hundreds at CPAC, many of them under 30. Conservative atheists by the hundreds. And I'm very pleased to announce today, yeah, I can do that we're going back again in March. Yeah. The interesting thing is this. The talking faces that we see on camera do not represent all of conservatism. In fact, they don't represent the vast majority of conservatism. All that Jesus stuff is at the top level. It's really only at the top level. Which means, in the middle level and at the bottom level, there's a wealth of atheists that can be organized. There's a wealth of atheists that can be given a voice. When we went into CPAC, we went in with a pipe dream to separate conservatism from Christianity, to give atheists a second party for whom to vote. Really interesting concept. It was a pipe dream. We now know it is plausible. It is plausible to separate Christianity from conservatism like it was in the days of Barry Goldwater. It is possible. It is plausible. That's why we're going back. Because if we can do this, I mean, it's a big deal. If we can do this, we win. We're done. We wrap it up. We're going to take away all of the power from the religious right. The Christian religion will become just another religion. Church and state will remain separate. And American atheists can pack our shit up and go home. We'll win. And that's what we're trying to do. And the only reason that we know it's possible is because we went where we weren't expected and we exerted a little en masse Firebrand atheism. We shifted the Overton window for the entire conservative movement in 3 days. Not bad. Not a bad result. Not a bad result. I like results. Here's some more results. Did I mention I love numbers? Quantifiable numbers from multiple independent sources. I love that stuff. So, let's talk a little bit about some real good quantifiable results that you can see from Firebrand atheism. What you have here is a blue line and a red line. The blue line is the number of times the word atheist is searched in Google in a given month. And it goes up and down over a course of a month or over the course of time. And why does it go up and down? Well, that's because there's a news item about atheists. If you just pick a data point here this month and search the word atheist in Google, you'll find the news item that caused the spike. You can do that. Very simple. And it goes up and down, and when there's no news items at all, the number of searches go down to this red line, the floor, which I represent as a barometer of atheist normalcy. Atheist normalcy. The number of times the word atheist is searched in a given month without being prompted to do so. And as you can see, it goes up and down, always back down to the floor until right about here. At Christmas of '06. Something interesting happened there. That's when the God delusion, Letter to a Christian Nation, and God is Not Great all came out at the same time. And they all went on massive book tours, and they all went on news programs, and everybody started talking about it, and there was a big spike right here, and it didn't go down again. People kept talking about atheism when they weren't being prompted to do so. That floor raised right there. Atheist normalcy increased. Okay. Oh no, we're going much farther. This is just the beginning. I'll tell you when to clap. Let's look a little bit more. You'll see a pattern emerge. Now, you see that there's a spike every Christmas. This is what I call the O'Reilly factor. Look, it goes up and down until right here, when those big bus ads came out in London, there's probably no God. I hate that word probably because there's definitely no God. But there's probably no God, so stop worrying and enjoy your life. And it was all over the news here in America. And if you look back at that point, you can see that that's what did it. And that caused the thing to the floor to raise again. Until right there. Right there is September of 2010. Now, if you look up the word atheist, September of 2010, in Google, you will find 2 events that month that caused a spike. The first event was the Pew Research that said that atheists know more about religion than religious people do. We all knew that. That's why we're atheists. The second point that happened in September of 2010 is that I was elected president of American Atheists. And that's when American Atheists started to exert some serious Firebrand atheism. And here is what happened. Now you can clap. What you're seeing here is a spike that corresponds with every single American atheist billboard. All those billboards that I talked about before, you know it's a myth. You know they're all scams. You know there is no God. You know it's nonsense. Tell your family. The Arabic and Hebrew billboards, the #1 spike here, the Reason Rally. The Christian and Mormon billboard. We took a Mormon billboard and put it on a truck and followed the Mitt Romney campaign around on a truck. And what you're seeing here is a rise in the floor twice as high as the other 2 in half the time. Twice as high in half the time. This is interesting. This is some quantifiable data that you can actually look up. And in Fighting God, I do a lot of checking because I'm a skeptic. We should all be skeptics. We also should try to have a hypothesis and to prove our hypothesis wrong with quantifiable data. That's what I do in Fighting God, and guess what? I fail. Every place I look, every way I look at the data, it comes back over and over again that Firebrand atheism had a measurable, quantifiable effect, and not just Firebrand atheism, American Atheists' Firebrand atheism had a quantifiable result. And let's look at some other results from other quantifiable data that you can also look up. This is the number of people the number of atheists who call themselves atheists, the number of atheists who call themselves agnostics. And look, you have a point here, right there, where the slope of this line starts to increase. It's going up at this rate, and then it goes up this way. It goes up this rate, then it goes up this way. Gee, if only we could coordinate the last chart with this chart. Oh, look. The result is that people start looking and calling themselves atheists at the exact same time as they start looking up the word atheist, which happens at the exact same time as Firebrand atheist activity by American atheists. What this shows you is that use of atheists correlates with hardline atheist activity, and interestingly, use of agnostic also correlates with hardline atheist activity. The spikes, the number of searches for agnostic doesn't go up. It's steady. It's in Fighting God, it's steady. But it still goes up in line with hardline atheist advertising, which of course suggests that people are using agnostic as a stepping stone term. Now, I also get criticism. I get a lot of criticism, and people tell me that, they shout out, "You're doing bad, you're doing harm." They have this muck in their brain that we have to be respectful to religion, and they think up these scenarios. I have a friend, and she saw your billboard, and she went back to Jesus. What's her name? I don't know. But if you are told as an atheist leader that you're doing harm, you have the responsibility to make sure they're wrong. So, for the research for Fighting God, I looked up every way I could to find any negative reaction at all. Any negative reaction at all. Any negative result at all to Firebrand atheism. And I found none. What I did find is this: an increase in the number of people who would vote for an atheist. And this is only a 3-point chart, only 3 points. But they are independent, they are quantifiable. 1, 2, 3. And you can see right here the slope increases. Guess when the slope increases? Right in time with that blue line. So let's put it all together. American Atheists moves the Overton window by putting up billboards that are outside the Overton window. The news reports about it en masse. And then people look up the word atheist en masse. And then people come out as atheists because they learn about atheists en masse. And then when people come out as atheists, they move the personal Overton windows of the people who hate atheists en masse. And then people are more tolerant and more likely to elect an atheist by name as president en masse. Quantifiable, statistically significant data. It's a wonderful thing. And it helps prove the point that Firebrand atheism is effective, more effective than the nice guy approach. In fact, the nice guy approach is far less effective. So here's your summary, folks. Firebrand atheism is more effective than the nice guy approach at causing movement on a nationwide level. It is also more effective in personal situations because it chips away at the privilege, at the mythology. All religions are lies. Nice absolute numbers, folks. Used absolute numbers. All religions are lies. All gods are false. All miracles are false. And those who believe such things are real are victims of lies. They're not stupid. They're not retarded. They're not brain damaged. They're victims of lies. And it is a good and ethical thing to help free these people from that which is clearly wrong. Now, I'm not saying we should go proselytizing door to door. But we have a knee-jerk reaction against that kind of thing. We have a knee-jerk reaction. Oh, I'm not going to do that. That's what religion does. I'm not going to push atheism. I'm going to do the live and let live thing. I'm not going to do that because if I do that, I look like religion. Who does that help? Doesn't help you. Doesn't help the believers. Doesn't help the country. It helps religion. When we sit back and do a live and let live mentality, we help religion. It's not ethical. It's not a good thing. We have that knee-jerk reaction, and I ask you to consider, ladies and gentlemen, if I went to my neighbors across the street on a Sunday morning and knocked on their door and got invited in and converted their entire family to atheism that morning, good is being done. You might not like how it feels. You might not like how it tastes. But good is being done. We need to own that. We need to own that this is not my way and your truth and my truth. This is truth versus fiction. This is lies versus reality. This is good versus evil, and we're the ones wearing the white hats. When people are hurt by religion, it is an ethical good to help them free of it. We need to own that fact, and we need to not knee-jerk and rally against people who help people away from a lie, a con, or a scam. Firebrand atheism is more effective at challenging religion than the nice guy approach. So it is better for the listeners, and it is indeed the nicer thing to do. This is true even if the listener says it's offensive. Why would the listener say it's offensive? Because religion has told him that's what you say when confronted with atheism. It's offensive. That's supposed to stop you. Don't let it stop you. It's not offensive to help somebody away from a scam. It's not a bad thing. It's good work. It's a good deed. Nothing beats facts. And all of them are on our side. Isn't that a wonderful absolute statement? I read somewhere that there are 22.5 billion gigabytes of data on the planet. 22.5 billion gigabytes of data on the planet, and none of it is proof of the existence of anything supernatural ever. None of it. We have all the facts. Use them and you win arguments and you create new atheists that can do the same. Ignore the facts and we become as weak as religion. Okay, that's what's in Fighting God. Fighting God, by the way, is being very well received. This is an old one. Now the number here is up to 70-something, and I am at 75% five-star reviews on Amazon. Quotes coming through it. My favorite atheist book of the year by Hemant Mehta. That's the Friendly Atheist. He rated it the #1 book of the year. Just as Sam Harris's The End of Faith and Richard Dawkins' The God Delusion changed the face of atheism forever, Fighting God changed the face of atheist activism. If the religious right has one book to fear, Fighting God is that book. J.T. Eberhard said, "This is one of the most enjoyable reads I've ever read." And, of course, my friend Richard Dawkins said, "David Silverman is the bad boy of atheism. How refreshing it is to read a book that is not afraid to speak the truth, sans apology." Now, the bad news is that the books for this event are already sold out. But we can pre-order them, and I will be signing book plates. But before we end, I want to talk about one more thing, and that is American Atheists. Folks, I'm not just an author. I'm the president of American Atheists. American Atheists was formed in 1963 by Madeleine Murray O'Hair. It is America's oldest nonprofit organization by and for atheists. We are leading the movement and changing this country with independent, quantifiable results. And frankly, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know of any other civil rights organization that can actually say we have quantifiable results that show we as an organization are changing this country for the better. We are efficient. 5 employees, ladies and gentlemen. 5 employees, and we're changing the country. Debt-free. We don't pay rent. We don't pay a mortgage. And we are transparent with voluntary yearly independent audits. You can go to the American Atheists website, which is atheists.org, and you can download for free our independently audited yearly numbers. You can't get that from any church, but we'll show it to you. We're currently establishing the Atheist Voting Bloc with the Atheist Voter Program. I don't know if you've seen the people walking around and talking to political candidates wearing Atheist Voter shirts. That's us, and it's something that we're very proud of. We're creating and leading the Patients' Right to Know Act, requiring hospitals to tell patients that they are refusing to offer treatments based on religious grounds. If you go to a hospital and you need a service done and they don't provide that service for you because of their religious grounds, they got to tell you. It's basic stuff. That way you don't die, right? That's basic stuff. And finally, we are attacking religious exemptions and special rights for churches in the IRS tax code. Donations are tax deductible. Please join and donate today. And let me tell you another thing. When I ask for money, people say, "Oh, you sound just like a religion," just like the proselytizing atheism, right? They say, "Oh, you sound just like religion when you ask for money." Fuck you. We have costs and this shit ain't free, okay? If you are looking at donating money, I am giving you on a silver platter an efficient way to buy activism. And that's what you're doing when you donate to American Atheists. You're buying activism. And the activism that you're buying from American Atheists is transparent and measurably effective. So, if you're not a member of American Atheists, you need to join American Atheists. It's $35 a year. Everybody here can hopefully afford $35 a year. If you can afford more, guess what? Give more. We're changing this country, and we're changing it for you. And we're going to see this happen. We are at the precipice of the end of the religious right in this country. We are seeing it happen, and we are looking at the conservative movement moving away from religion. We are looking at all the growth. We are the fastest growing religious demographic in all 50 states. We are looking and seeing our results happening on a national level consistently over time. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very special time to be an atheist. We are witnessing the change of America here today, and it's going to happen within your lifetimes. With American Atheists, with Atheists of Utah, and with your help, we can win. We can win. Thank you. All right, how much time do we have for questions? Dan, where are you? Dan left. There you are, Dan. Dan, what are we doing for questions?
I was hiding in the wings. We have about 25 minutes or so for questions.
Oh, that's a long time. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, a question is a single sentence that ends in a question mark. A lot of people have questions sometimes, and please ask questions, not giving speeches.
Yes, please. Over here, looks like closest first.
Hi.
How do you feel about Satanists and Lucian?
No. The question is, how do I feel about Lucian Greaves and the Satanists? I love him. I think he's brilliant. It takes all kinds to win this war. And I talk about this in the book, In Fighting God. It takes all kinds. It takes the firebrands, it takes the diplomats, it takes the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster, and it takes the Satanists. And they're doing a very important job. They're using an established religion for our gain. And I don't agree that they're actually a religion, but legally they are. And I think they're doing a tremendous job. We worked with the Church of Satan in Oklahoma City. They had a 10 Commandments on the public lawn. The ACLU went and sued in on the state level. American Atheists went in and sued on the federal level. And Lucian went in on the Equal Protection Clause asking for a statue of Baphomet. And wouldn't you know, they took the 10 Commandments down. The thing about the Church of Satan is that the Christians are afraid of equality. Okay, they don't want, not all Christians, of course, but organized Christianity is afraid of equality. They don't want to be equal to you, but they are. And what the Church of Satan does is it makes them deal with the fact that there is a religion that uses their mythology to do what they don't want to do, to actually do something that they don't want. It's a wonderful thing, and it makes the Christian right deal with the fact that they are only equal to everyone else. Christianity is only equal to atheism. Christianity is only equal to Satanism in the eyes of the law. In the eyes of the law. In reality, Christianity is nothing compared to atheism. But in the eyes of the law, they're equal, and that's why Lucian is doing a fantastic job, and I think he's a great guy. Yeah.
All right, next question. I'm sorry, well, Mr. Vegetarian who hates atheists.
Ricardo, you shouldn't be such an atheophobe. Don't hate atheists, Ricardo.
So my question is, how do you diminish the political power of a state like Utah with atheism?
Okay, so how do you diminish the political power of a state in Utah like with atheism? Folks, it comes really easy. That's a great question, Ricardo, and it's really easy. You have to increase the appearance of atheism in Salt Lake City. You have to appear bigger than you appear now. Right now in Salt Lake City, there's a small percentage of people who call themselves atheists, but there's a large number of atheists. If we coalesce and work together, if we stop saying stupid shit like, I'm not an atheist, I'm a free thinker, I'm not an atheist, I'm a humanist, I'm not an atheist, I'm a skeptic, if we stow away with all that crap and actually just say, I'm an atheist, and the number of atheists in Salt Lake City soars, the Overton window of every single person will shift. And that's how we change it. And we can do it. And we can do it in our lifetime. We can change Salt Lake City in our lifetimes simply by increasing the way we use atheists and how out we are.
So how do you recommend dealing with elderly, say 70, 75 years old or older, that have their entire life invested in being brainwashed with religion?
Yeah. How do you deal with people who are old, who are invested in religion? I treat them with respect. I treat them with honor. And I tell them the truth. That is doing the truth. 75 years old isn't dead. You can learn to stop paying attention to a lie any time in your life. 75 years old isn't dead. 75 years old isn't senile. 75 years old is perfectly capable of understanding a common argument and realizing that they're wrong. 75 years old. Tell them the truth. Let them make the decision. I had a speech, somebody talked to me before, and they said they didn't want to tell their father that they were an atheist because they thought they would get upset. Well, guess what? Maybe they won't. Maybe they won't. Maybe your 75-year-old grandmother will change. Maybe your 75-year-old grandmother will appreciate the conversation. Maybe it's more respectable and more honorable to tell your grandmother the truth and let her decide what to do. That's the right thing to do. Grandparents are not fragile little waifs. They've been through a lot. 75 years old, they were around for World War II. They know serious stuff. And they can think, and they can determine, and they can debate, and they can learn. You can teach them, and I think you should. And that's how you treat them with respect.
How do you deal with people who, in my opinion, have stock on with religion? They grew up in an abused home, and the religion saved them.
And it's a tough thing, right? That's part of the brainwashing that religion gives you. You need religion. You're a moral person because of religion. You have 2 arms because of religion. You're a good person because of religion. You need religion. You can't survive without religion, which is exactly what religion tells you. There are lots of ways to get people out of religion. I recommend Peter Boghossian's A Manual for Creating Atheists. It's a great way to actually take a conversation in a Socratic method and actually take them through thinking about why they actually think what theirs is true, their truth is truth. In other words, you think your religion is real and your religion saves you, but Ricardo thinks his religion saved him, and he's a completely different religion, and he has the exact same amount of evidence as you do. Why is he wrong and you right? This is a Socratic method. The book is called A Manual for Creating Atheists by Peter Boghossian. And I'm not going to tell you how to do it. One of the things that I don't do in fighting God is tell you how to convert people. I don't want to. There's a lot of different ways to do it. It's got to be done on an individual level. What I ask you to do is do something. And I think Peter Boghossian's book, Manual for Creating Atheists, is a great place to start. Sir, nice shirt.
Thank you. Given that Firebrand atheism is telling the truth, and that Firebrand atheism works, and that religion, all religion, is a lie and a scam and a con,
Yep.
what is the right label for a person who always tells lies when it comes to religion?
A politician.
Liar. What is the right name for a con artist? Con artist.
Yeah.
So I would suggest a friendly amendment to your point number 1 of your talk. Empty name calling is inappropriate because it's empty. Your mother wears army shoes is not relevant. But if someone is a bigot, then the right term is bigot. If someone's a liar, the right term is liar.
Calling people a name is going to put them on the defensive more. And I'm not saying, I know you're grabbing it. What I'm saying is I'm not here to tell you how to do it. I'm just telling you to do something, okay? Like I said, there's many ways to do it. I have not found productivity by calling people names. Bigot is a good word, okay? Bigot is a good word, and I do call people bigots when they are bigots, but not when I'm trying to deconvert them. When I'm trying to deconvert them, I raise the fact that bigotry is just being cloaked in religion. And that's the way I phrase it, that you're cloaking bigotry in religion. If you don't like gays because God hates gays, well, the only reason you think your God hates gays is because you hate gays. You are cloaking your hatred of gays in religion and asking for religious help. That's how I kind of put it. I don't call them a bigot. I tell them that they're cloaking bigotry in religion. And it kind of works out another layer there.
I was just wondering how you feel about Neil deGrasse Tyson refusing to take on the label of atheism or the progress scientific
He's really fucking wrong. He's really, look, Neil deGrasse Tyson is brilliant and he's doing his thing and he wants to promote science and he is shying away, avoiding at all costs using the word atheist as a self-identifier, and I think he's doing a terrible thing by doing that. I think he is kowtowing to religion. I think he is saying that religion is relevant when he doesn't say he's an atheist. He's saying, well, there's right and there's wrong, and the wrong people are relevant, so I don't want to say I'm right. He will come out on stage and do a meme and do a tap dance about a flat earth, and he'll say, the world isn't flat, and he'll drop the mic. But he won't do the same thing about something that is exactly equal to that, and that is religion. Because he doesn't want to piss off religion, because he's afraid of religion. And when he's afraid of religion, he gives religion power. Neil deGrasse Tyson and David Silverman have the same enemies. We fight the same battle against the same foe. But when he refuses to call himself an atheist, he actually gives our own foe some power and relevance. And I really wish he would change his mind.
How can we access this video later?
Dan?
We will be editing it and uploading it just as soon as possible. We will be posting it. I'll link to it through the Atheists of Utah Facebook page. And I'll be sharing it. I'm sure it'll be shared around everywhere. So just watch for that. We'll get it up as soon as we possibly can.
Do you have any advice or suggestions on raising an atheist kid in a very religious society? Like, would you, if they get religion curious, I guess, would you advise that they go to those churches?
This is a very important question. How do you raise an atheist kid in a religious society? The key word is pluralism, okay? Make sure that it's not a Boolean equation. It's not God versus no God. It's this God versus this God versus this God versus this God versus this God. In my house, I have a God on the wall. Okay, it's Neptune. He's blowing a ship. And when I was a little kid, when my daughter was a little kid, we would poke the God in the eye and run away. And that's what we did to that God. And then we talked about all the other gods. This God and the Jesus God and the Muhammad God and all the other gods. Yes, I gave my daughter a Bible. Yes, I told her to read it. And yes, she did. And yes, she's an atheist. So the way to do it is to realize that it's not our way versus their way. It's all of their ways versus ours. And let's look at the evidence. Let's look at why they think that way and why we think our way. Give kids a good amount of credit, a good amount of benefit of the doubt. Foist the information on them, and all will be well. Hold on, she had a follow-up question.
Did you ever let her go to church of any kind?
So I'm married to a woman who was Jewish at the time, and so we sent her to a secular Jewish synagogue to learn about Jewish things that were non-religious. I was at the time a person who considered himself a Jewish atheist. I have gone beyond that now, and I call myself an ex-Jew. Would I allow them to church? Yes, of course I would. Of course I would. Don't make it a forbidden fruit. Go. Tell them what's happening. No. They actually think the wafer turns into the body of a 2,000-year dead Jew in their stomach. Ask them. Go ask them.
I just wondered how you felt about this notion that we are people who don't believe in any kind of afterlife, so therefore we have less interest in being ethical while we are here on Earth. And to me, it seems like the opposite should be true. Just wondering how you felt.
Well, I mean, remember, every religion is individual. People invent their own religion. And you can see this in how people go from church to church. If somebody goes to, here's a trick question I ask. If somebody goes to a church and they hear something from the pastor that's wholly immoral, what do they do? And I tell them, when I'm asking them this question, that is a trick question. I tell them this is a trick question. What do you do if your pastor says something immoral? And they will invariably say, well, I'll pray about it, I'll talk to the pastor, I'll ignore it. What they won't say is that that's impossible, I get my morality from my pastor. They won't say that. Because everybody gets their morality from the same place. It's not a matter of believing in an afterlife or not. They get their morality from the same place, the society, the way we're raised, and their innate cognitive abilities. And what they do is they give credit to the religion. because religion takes the credit. Okay, so they go to a church, they hear something they don't like, so they go to another church, they hear something they do like, and they consider that church correct. Okay, that's how they do it. That's how morality gets treated as religion. So when somebody says, well, there's no morality without religion, this is provably untrue. And when you're talking about, the fact that there's no afterlife, I mean, think about it for a second. If you're only moral, if you only do, I was on a train, and I was wearing an atheist t-shirt. I wear atheist t-shirts everywhere. I was on a train, I was sitting across the street, across the train from somebody who said that he was with a woman, and he said that if it wasn't for his belief in God, he would rape that woman. Okay? That the belief in God, the fear of hell, was stopping him from committing rape. And he said that in front of his girlfriend. This is what religion does to you. And this is it's bullshit, right? I mean, the reason that we're good is because we're good. It's not because religion threatens us. We as atheists are good people. Some of us are bad people. But we who are good for goodness sake, because we're good, not because we're being threatened with hell, not because we're being candied with heaven. If the only reason you're not raping a person is because you'll go to hell if you do, you're an asshole. Thank you.
Okay, we got a question back here.
Okay, so is there anything you or I can do to change the Utah law that a public school must display an "In God We Trust" sign?
No. Look, is there any way to get "In God We Trust" off the schools? The bad news is no. "In God We Trust," unfortunately, is our national motto. It was approved by Congress, and it went through the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court, in their ultimate wisdom, decided "In God We Trust" is not a religious statement. You can't make this stuff up, folks. So in order to get "In God We Trust" off the schools, we have to have a congressional action. We have to have it go through the Congress and the president. And that's the long-term goal. We all want it to happen, but "In God We Trust," unfortunately, is now coated with Teflon. I don't know. 1970s, I believe. And unfortunately, there's not too much we can do about it at all.
Out of the myriad death threats you've received, do you have a favorite you'd like to share?
You want me to share my favorite death threat? I know where you live. I'm coming to you tonight. I'm going to cut you from your belly to your gullet while you sleep, and then I'm going to do the same thing to your wife and daughter. Hail Jesus.
So one of the things, just to kind of give you some context for, here, one of the hardest things I think for a lot of people departing faith, departing belief, is the sense of community. Can you kind of touch on what you've seen as effective ways of organizing in the atheist community that you've seen?
Well, I think Atheists of Utah is doing a great job. I think, yeah. I think the value that atheists place on community in the eyes of the theist is a little bit inflated. I don't think all theists who leave that community miss the community. In fact, I think it's a minority who do. But those who do need something. So that's where Atheists of Utah comes in. That's where secular, or I should say atheist churches come in. That's where Open Sunday Assembly comes in. There are lots of things that you can do to foster that community. But like I said, a lot of people come out of church and they want nothing to do with that stuff. So that's kind of a defense mechanism that people use, and it is relevant to some, but I don't believe it's as relevant to as many people as we think it is.
Okay, I think we've got time for just two more questions. I think Grant may have one back there, and then we'll finish up over here.
Oh, go ahead, Grant.
Okay.
How do you deal with non-overt workplace discrimination, and have you dealt with discrimination as an atheist?
Yeah, I mean, I used to work as a professional inventor at Bell Labs, and I was an atheist activist at Bell Labs, and I formed the first ever atheist club in Lucent Technologies, and then there was a layoff, and they fired everybody non-profitable, everybody redundant, and me. And I found out later that the reason I was included in that was because my boss's boss's boss didn't like me because I was an atheist. I didn't have any sort of proof. I couldn't prove it. I was fired, though. And I do believe it. Coming out at work is, in my opinion, the least important thing to do. We have a lot of important things to do, coming out at home, coming out to your friends and family, living your life. But frankly, your religious beliefs at your workplace are usually not relevant. And when somebody comes to me with Jesus at the workplace, I get all pissed off because it's not even relevant. So I think coming out at work is not a zero sum, not something that you don't want to do, but it is the least important place to come out as an atheist. Unfortunately, I don't know the law in Utah. In New Jersey, we're not a protected class. You can be fired for being an atheist. You can't be fired for religion, but you can be fired for being an atheist. And it's pretty disgusting. And there are laws against discrimination, LADs, that include creed, and creed does count us. So if it's religion, no. If it's creed, yes, and you can sue for it. How do you deal with it? Get it in recording. Get it in writing. Do anything that you can to get witnesses, anything that you can to get proof, and then sue the hell out of them.
Okay, last question, we'll break for the book signing.
So how do the American Atheist group address kind of some of the rampant sexism, racism, other misogynistic or homophobic behaviors in the atheist communities at large?
Yeah, and that's a big thing. We're very proud, I'm very proud, at American Atheists. We were the first atheist organization to have a comprehensive sexual harassment policy, a comprehensive discrimination policy in writing for all of our conventions. We actually have people there to make sure that everybody acts in a sexually positive, harassment negative manner. This is something that I take very seriously. I take very personally. My daughter is on the Q continuum, she calls it. It's a difficult position, but the way we do it is by overtly accepting everyone. American Atheists, our conventions, we have gender-neutral restrooms, and we're proud of it. We flaunt it. We flaunt our diversity, and we flaunt our pride in our diversity. And I think that's why when you come to an American Atheist convention, or when you come to the Reason Rally, which they're using the same policy, you're going to see a much lower level, in fact, an almost negligible level of that kind of crap. So, having said that, I do want to mention the Reason Rally, because I did mention this before, and I want to mention this again before we close it out. The Reason Rally 2012 was the largest atheist event in world history. It was 30,000 atheists in one place. The largest atheist event ever. It was awesome. And in 2016, this year, in June, we're doing it again. Now, June 4th, American Atheist National Convention does not happen in 2016. We're not having a convention this year. A bunch of organizations are not having conventions this year. All eyes to the Reason Rally. This is going to be, again, the largest atheist event in world history. Now, I am not running this event. I am, however, chair of programming. As chair of programming, I know who's coming. But as I am not the president of the Reason Rally Coalition anymore, I do not have the authority to tell you. I do, however, want you to know that we have a much, much larger budget, and that we have people coming to this Reason Rally that are amazing. In fact, we have the potential for some A-list celebrities to actually join us on stage, politicians to actually join us on stage. This is going to be the largest atheist event ever. If you can make it, get to Washington, D.C. for June 4th, that entire weekend. It's going to be fantastic. I wish I could tell you the names on this list. I can't. But I can tell you, it's really freaking good, and you're going to want to be there, and you're going to regret not being there if you don't go. So the website for American Atheists is atheists.org. The website for Reason Rally is reasonrally.org. Watch the reasonrally.org website. Watch the Reason Rally Twitter. because we're going to make an announcement very soon, and it's going to be really good. Really, really good. So please mark your calendars, June 4th, for the Reason Rally. I hope to see you all there. Thank you.